I'm 63 years of age. I've worked all my life in the shipbuilding repair industry. I was fortunate to retire by compulsory means because the British government created a vacuum in new build ships for the Royal Navy of about 5 years, which meant the section I worked in had little or no work for that period. My main hobby during my working life was DIY, do it yourself, and buying and selling property which I'd renovated. Prior to retirement, my younger brother and I had owned 4 properties, 3 of which we rented to tenants. After retirement, my last project was a lovely cottage built circa 1750, which was in a totally dilapidated state. My brother and I took about 6 years to totally rebuild, adding a 2-storey extension sympathetically and building a very large barn-like double garage and workshop complex, which was sympathetically built to reflect the age of the original cottage. I've been married to my Thai wife for 10 years, been together for 13, and she has 2 boys aged 22 and 18. I've lived full-time in Thailand for 7 years, and we farm cassava from 122 rai of land presently. That's about 50 acres. So, how did I come about to discover that I had a problem with my prostate? Well, I had a hip replacement carried out in February 2017. After my recovery period, my sexual drive, my libido, had diminished rather dramatically, and when I was aroused I noticed that my erections were not quite as substantial as previously experienced. I naturally put it down to the hip operation and the fact that at 62 I was starting to slow down sexually. In September last year I had to go back to the UK to arrange to have my personal effects shipped out to Thailand, as we had put our cottage up for sale after the remaining tenants we had left. Whilst in the UK I looked up old friends and had nights out together and obviously conversations about old times, etc. But one of my best friends, who looked after my interests in the UK whilst I was away in Thailand, was telling me about a well man clinic he had attended at his GP surgery. I thought to myself that at age 62 this would be a good idea for me to also. So I arranged through my local GP surgery to have a blood test at the local hospital. This was carried out and I received a letter from my GP asking me to attend an appointment with him. The results of the blood test showed everything, i.e. liver, kidney, thyroid, bone, blood sugar, cholesterol, etc., were all normal except for my PSA reading. The normal range is from 0 to 4, mine happened to be 4.463. He explained to me this could indicate a problem, and so he examined me internally, obviously through the rectum, to feel my prostate. After what I found was an uncomfortable examination, it was only the second time in my life that a doctor had examined me that way. He explained I had an enlarged prostate but could not find any lumps or irregularities about it. I discussed what the next step might be. He suggested another PSA test 8 weeks from that date. I explained that I would have returned to my home in Thailand by then, and that was not possible. I said that I would have another test in the hospital where I had my hip replacement. As I was leaving the country, it was no longer his obligation to help me, so I thanked him for his time and left. 8 weeks after my previous blood test, I visited the hospital and had another PSA test. I saw a urologist and showed him my test results from the UK. The test I had in Thailand showed my PSA had gone down to 4.34, and it was decided that I should return in 6 months for another test. In May this year, I had another test and my PSA had increased to 10.85. As the test results were given over the phone at home and not in the hospital, he told my wife I should make an appointment to see him as soon as possible. My immediate reaction was that I was stunned. My wife asked what it could be, and I tried to explain what the implications could be. The hospital I had my hip operation and my PSA blood tests was an excellent hospital, but I decided to go to the best hospital in our nearest city, which is Korat, which is Thailand's second biggest city, as I wanted to get the best treatment information I could afford. I consulted their urologist about my problem. I had another PSA test, which showed the reading had dropped to 9.35. However, due to my beer drinking habit, my blood pressure was quite high. His suggestion that I should have a biopsy on my prostate could only happen once my blood pressure had lowered to allow that to happen. Over the next 3 weeks, through abstaining from beer, my BP had dropped to an acceptable operational level. I was booked in for the procedure for June 18, 2018. Whilst awaiting this, I started to explore the internet about prostate cancer and anything to do with prostates. There was a mine of information out in the ether, but one particular advert caught my attention. It was Dr. Song and his 3D urology clinic and treatment. I read through all the procedures and the testimonies given by previous patients of the clinic. One thing stuck out in me then, and that was not to have a biopsy. After all the searches and reading about prostatic procedures, I felt an impulse that Dr. Song's 3D urology clinic was my way forward. However, my wife said that I should go ahead with a biopsy as I had already booked it. Big mistake. This I now regretfully did. I was given an epidural to freeze my lower half of my body, and a 15-needle sample was taken from my prostate. The whole procedure was over in 30 minutes and I left hospital at 5 p.m. the next day. I had to wait 1 week for the results of the pathology department to come back from the capital, Bangkok. My next consultation with the urologist confirmed that I had cancer. My immediate reaction was, how long have I got left? He explained that my cancer diagnosis was 3+3 on the Gleason scale, which is not absolutely serious. It's lower than 7, 8, 9, 10, which is getting up towards getting very serious. And that it wasn't advanced. I asked what the next step might be. He said I could wait 6 months and have another biopsy, or I could travel to Bangkok and have an operation by the specialist there. I asked how much the operation might be. He was not sure, but it would be more than $500,000 baht, about £12,000 GD pounds, minimum. And of course they had all the add-ons, etc. So that figure would have probably gone up to about 15, 18, 20,000, who knows. I said that I would take a few weeks discussing it with my family and would decide my next step. Over the next few weeks, I weighed up my options. 1, to wait and have another biopsy, at £2,000 again. Why? I know I have cancer already. Delaying treatment could only exacerbate my condition. I found this option totally incomprehensible. Number 2, to travel to the UK and have a medical procedure there, where it would be free on the National Health Service, but I would perhaps have to join a waiting list, which I've only just been reading an article today where a gentleman has been waiting a year for treatment. Number 3, have the procedure carried out in Bangkok at whatever expense. 4, have a non-invasive treatment, no surgery, by Dr. Song. Well, having been warned by the urologist in Korat that the operation's side effects could be A, impotence, and B, incontinence, or both, I had already told my wife with no bravado intended, quite honestly, I would rather die like a man than live like a baby, and I mean that absolutely 100%. The thought of wearing adult diapers for the rest of my life was a non-starter. So within 2 months of agonising, I booked to attend Dr. Song's 3D urology clinic. My treatment experience and feeling at the clinic. I liaised with Elisa via the internet, and having given her my details about my cancer readings and medical history of my prostate problem, Dr. Song advised that I should have a 5-week course of treatment. I freely admit that the thought of spending 5 weeks away from my wife, family, I have 6 dogs, and my home with a rather large garden that needs constant upkeep was rather intimidating. I have to tell you that I've never been fond of hospitals and medical treatment. Even visiting family and friends was somewhat of an unpleasant but necessary ordeal for me. However, from the moment I arrived at Changsha International Airport, China, and was met by a beaming Elisa holding my name on an A4 paper, my fears began to subside. It was just over an hour's drive to the hotel, the Xi'an City Convenience Inn, which incidentally is but a 2-minute stroll to the building across from the hotel, which contains Dr. Song's 3D urology clinic. Very handy indeed. My hotel room was very comfortable, which also eased my fears. The bed and pillows are absolutely divine for a hotel. I've never had better, and I've stayed in some quite expensive hotels. Next day, Elisa met me in the lobby to take me to a local hospital for an MRI and blood tests. The blood destinations for analysis were no problem. However, my MRI was a failure owing to me having a titanium hip. So if you have a titanium hip, whether you come here or you're going in the UK or wherever in the world, do not bother, because it will not give you a proper result. The hip casts a shadow across your groin area, so will give inconclusive results. I was then taken to the clinic on the 8th floor of the building where Dr. Song's 3D urology clinic was sited. I entered the clinic and was happy to find it did not seem like a hospital. In fact, it was a very relaxed atmosphere I found myself in. There was a front desk where Elisa and Cindy, the clinic's nurse, worked from. There were some chairs and seats along one wall. There were 2 stations where people could sit whilst receiving IV treatment. And of course it was air conditioned throughout. The next room along also contained 2 hospital-style beds with IV stands if you wanted to lie down instead of sitting up. The 3rd room contained Dr. Song's consulting room and the door through to the treatment room for administering injections. Whilst you can tell medical procedures were carried out at the clinic, it had a very informal, almost lounge-like atmosphere. I personally couldn't have wished for better. The relaxed, friendly atmosphere of the clinic made for an easy conversation both with the staff, Dr. Song, Ivan his assistant, Elisa, the Mrs. Fix-It, and Cindy the nurse, and the other attendees. There were 7 of us to begin with, having treatment, and to a man we all got along well together, discussing our individual problems and treatments, and congratulating one another when successful stages of our treatments were forthcoming. You could say it was a bonus to have the atmosphere created by both staff and patients alike that enhances the clinic. My evaluation of the doctors in the clinic. As I have said previously, my dislike of hospitals, medical treatment, etc. was completely evaporated at Dr. Song's clinic. My experience has been 100% positive. Dr. Song's injections into the prostate, whilst feeling the prostate, obviously through the rectum, enabled him to target the specific areas that were intended. I have to say though, the first treatment day, where a sample of prostate fluid was squeezed from my prostate for micro-analysis, was somewhat distressing to me, owing to the fact that my prostate was twice the size that a normal prostate should be, ascertained by an ultrasound examination beforehand. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. However, this only lasted less than a minute to achieve said sample. My next discomforting moment were the 2 injections administered by Dr. Song for the first time. Obviously, I've had many injections over the years and was a regular blood donor for a long while. However, having injections into one of the most sensitive areas of the human body is going to be stressful. I admit the first 3 days caused me to be anxious before treatment began. However, after that, it started to become less stressful. There was still discomfort, obviously, during the procedure, but as my treatment has progressed over the weeks, it has become a very minor irritant for less than 2 minutes, and I am able to walk away with no discomfort. It was established through all the tests that I had a 7mm tumour and bacterial infection, as well as calcification and pathogens present in my prostate. The 2 daily injections were throughout the 5-week course. After 1 week, I was given 20 containers of Chinese herbal medicine to help boost my immune system and to counteract some of the bacteria and things that were present in my prostate. This was taken with 500 millilitres of boiling water every day. I used to boil a kettle, mix some medicine up, and then drink it, sometimes all in one, or stagger it throughout the day. Specifically, I was told not to drink my Chinese tea within 2 hours of having drunk the medicine. I was also advised at my initial consultancy not to drink coffee or alcohol throughout the 5-week course of treatment. After 2 weeks, I was started on my IV treatment, which contained 3 different intravenous drips. These were administered and checked constantly by Cindy the nurse. The procedure lasting about 2 hours per session. These lasted for 15 days and were completely painless and stress-free. Before every injection, Dr. Song, Ivan and Elisa taking notes as well, would ask for my general health, i.e. my sleeping, my bowel and urination moments, my energy levels, etc. So if there were any questions I needed to ask, they could answer all or any queries. Dr. Song logged all my comments and appropriate information in my personal medical notes. After each interview, Dr. Song would enter the treatment room whilst Ivan and Lisa would keep me company until he was ready to treat me. Ivan would accompany me into the room and I would remove my pants and shorts, and as said before, the injection procedure only lasts about 2 minutes. And the more you have, the less stressful you become. Even blasé about it, which I was. Once treatment is over, you dress, and if you have further questions, you're at will to do whatever. Talk to the other patients, or go on your merry way. To sum up, very pleased with all the procedures, bearing in mind, no medical treatment of this kind can be completely stress-free and without minor discomfort. My evaluation on China. About 14 years ago, I visited Hong Kong for 4 nights. I stayed at a hotel in Kowloon. I had a very enjoyable time there. I took a day trip via the hydrofoil to visit Macau and looked around all the old parts when it was a Portuguese territory, as well as visiting 1 or 2 casinos. I found Hong Kong fascinating and came away with some very happy memories. Visiting the People's Republic of China was something I had no prior knowledge of. I'd seen TV programs on China, mainly tourist destinations. My first impression of China was landing at Changsha International Airport. To my delight, it was not overcrowded, and I passed through a comprehensive immigration check where they take both hands, finger and thumbprints in your photo. On to baggage recovery and out through customs, where everybody's bags are put through an X-ray machine. Bags collected and into the arrivals hall when I met Elisa from the 3D urology clinic. Everything smooth and hassle-free. After just over an hour, we arrived at the hotel I will be staying in. It's the Xiang City Convenience Inn. I paid for one night on arrival. I didn't have too much money. I found the room very comfortable and modern, and as I said before, probably one of the most enjoyable, comfortable beds I've ever slept in a hotel in my life. I would meet Elisa the next morning in the lobby to go to a hospital for blood checks and an MRI. This was my first real look at mainland China. I quickly noticed there were no other European-looking people around. I found some Chinese regarding me as a curiosity, as Xiantang is not on the tourist map, so I was a little bit of a rarity, as all us European people attending the clinic are. My blood samples were given in a quite public area, but efficiently done. We then went to the building where I was to have my MRI carried out. This was a longer wait, but I eventually had that, but it was inconclusive, as I said. If you have a titanium hip or hips, do not have an MRI wherever you are in the world. It took me a few days to get to know my local area. I found a local supermarket that sold all the things I initially needed. I like green tea, so I bought myself a teapot, cup, teaspoon, a sharp knife. I bought lots of fresh fruit, nuts, yogurts, etc. so that I could have these in my hotel room at my convenience. My next searches were the surrounding area shops and parks. I found a lovely 3-lake park called Yuhu Park, within 20 minutes walk from the hotel, where I would spend hours every day reading and writing in lovely serene surroundings, sometimes interrupted by other people who were always very friendly, even if they could not speak a word of English, as indeed I could not speak Chinese. Within 2 days I had started walking. My first walk was around Yuhu Park and back to the hotel. I was lucky in as much there was a fellow attendee of the clinic called Dave, 73 years old, and a dedicated marathon runner. And he showed me a route to take for my walking. So I bought a pair of walking shoes and many pairs of socks, and I was away every morning at the beginning, doing about 10 kilometres a day, which would take me about an hour and 45 minutes. I then, after about a week, increased it to 12 kilometres, about 2 hours, and do the same route every day before breakfast. You gradually get to know many other people out exercising daily, and I am on hello and good morning terms with many Chinese people. When shopping, I use a quasi-sign language, and I get the person to write their price on paper if it is not labelled already. I can honestly say I've had no negative experiences whatsoever. In fact, it has been really enjoyable. Contrary to what I may have been expecting beforehand. I would definitely come to China again, but hopefully, depending on my successful treatment as a tourist. Right, anything I want to say? Well, to sum up my experience of being an attendee of Dr. Son's 3D urology clinic and my general feelings about the complete experience of my time here, I can absolutely confirm that I would recommend anybody facing a similar medical predicament such as I was facing before coming here to not have a biopsy, but to have an MRI or ultrascan. If you have an artificial hip, or to confirm your prostate condition first, then contact the 3D urology clinic via email and give them the results and any medical history to do with your prostate. Then await what Dr. Song has to diagnose and consider his synopsis and course of treatment that you would expect to have to help cure your individual problem. Whilst I've been attending the clinic, I've had the pleasure of knowing 6 other people with prostate problems. All of us had different problems. No 2 of us were similar, although a lot of the treatment has been similar for some of us. You are in fact individually targeted with the injections depending on the size, etc. of tumours. The Chinese herbal medicines, whether antibiotic, anti-cancer, can be given in different amounts and times, again, depending on your condition. I can only say I've been 100% satisfied with the care and attention I've received, And as a bonus, my fellow attendees, patients as you might call them, have all to a man been supportive of each other and informative about many aspects of prostate cancer, diet, exercise, etc. We've been like a small, friendly self-help group. I'm hoping that anybody seeing this video, if they can come to Dr. Song's urology clinic and be cured without having to undergo invasive surgery such as